something that you never forget. You know, my worst enemy in professional wrestling is a better friend than somebody I met in the real world. And it's time to hang him up. You know, the company's taken off. I'm basically living here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm busy constantly 7 days a week, and I don't have the time or the dedication anymore in my heart to carry on and do this. And we've gone to a whole nother level in the last couple years, taking JCW and turning it into Game Changer Wrestling and going on tour and doing festivals and just completely, really going to another level, ending up on ESPN, TMZ. It was a great ride, but it's time for me to hang it up. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's been part of it. Shows are going to continue. Keep an eye out for the announcement from the new owners.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We cut that a couple seconds short because we can get that information live from Ricky himself, as we will welcome him in right now. Ricky, welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Last time we spoke, we were speaking about the future of JCW and where you were going with GCW, and now we speak again and we're saying goodbye.
Yeah, all good things come to an end, and I think it's just my time to move on. Like I played my video, too many of my friends never got a chance to say goodbye. Too many of them, either go out of the business in a shady way or unfortunately pass away, and I just wanted to go out on my own terms and say goodbye to the people I love and care about and spent a lot of my life with.
That's commendable. Everybody, always likes to go out on their own terms and, not to steal a line from Frank Sinatra, doing it my way. But it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess to the fans, it kind of seems like so out of the blue. I know you've been busy, out of state with work and things like that, and you've been very absent from a lot of the shows. I mean, was this something that, how long has this been going on in your mind that you felt that, the time was coming?
I would say about 2 years. Personally, if we really want to dive right into it, we can. My brother and my family owns a very successful cellular construction company. I personally had spent 20 years in the hospital industry. I lost my position there a few years ago. I went to work for the family business.
Mm-hmm.
I was given an opportunity to open a new market here in Nashville, Tennessee. It was handed to me. It was a career change. It's going really, really well. I've been down here for 11 months this week. And, sometimes you got to put real life in front of fun. And wrestling has always been fun to me. Brett, a lot of people got as far as the ultra-violent stuff, as far as getting these dream indie matchups put together and stuff like that. A lot of that's not my cup of tea, and a lot of it I fell in love with. But wrestling just sometimes can't get in the way of real life, and it started to do that.
Right.
And it was just time for me to step away.
I mean, you've seen a lot of guys walk through your door that eventually wound up on TV. And a lot of people can't say that. A lot of people wound up with these guys after they're already on TV or after they're released. You got
one of the frustrating things for me, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
JCW was taking leaps and bounds in the late 90s, early 2000s, before there was ever a Ring of Honor, before there was Evolve, before there was Gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
The dream matches were taking place in JCW.
Right.
And I don't think people realize that. We were the first East Coast person to ever have Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, AJ Styles. We were years ahead of Ring of Honor. Now, I'm not really Rob Feinstein's biggest fan, but Rob came to me when he formed Ring of Honor and was like, hey, man, I'm taking your J-Cup idea, and we're going to do this every single night, and that's going to be my company. He's like, I loved your concept, but I need to do that kind of show every single night. That's what the fans want. And if you really think about it,
mm-hmm.
that's what early Ring of Honor was the J-Cup every single night.
Okay. I've never been to a Ring of Honor show, to be honest with you. But I do know a lot of the history of your company and a lot of your guys that worked there, like Bandito Jr. who's now down in Florida working at NXT. I mean, I see some of these guys that they work for you, and boom, and they're either on TV or they're training. They're that close, a snap of a finger away, and I mean that's got to kind of make you feel proud, almost like a big dad.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't even go on about guys like Bull Dempsey, Danny Inferno, Brian Wenzel. Those were early JCW guys who went on to have amazing careers in like OVW. Bull, with his NXT run was like my son going down there. Bandito, forget about it. I mean, I think they made a mistake making him a referee. He's one of the most talented wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
But hey, he's making a living. He's making a name for himself. God bless him. Sean Bennett started off very early JCW. Wasn't even old enough to drive. I tease him to this day. His grandpa used to drive him to my shows in the Garfield Boys Club. He started at 16. He didn't have a driver's license in New Jersey. and Fred Sampson. And, again, I'll go to, one of the funny stories that I love to tell is I picked up AJ Styles at the airport and was bringing him to a J-Cup. He had never been to New York City. He jumped out of my car on 34th Street and ran up the street on the stairs of Madison Square Garden, got on his hands and knees and kissed the front stairs of Madison Square Garden, pointed at it and said, "I'll be here someday." He's your WWE World Champion right now.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan came off the plane, and we got in a horrible traffic jam in the city, and we were stuck in his car with each other for 5 hours. And I'll never forget. And now all of a sudden he's this most charismatic guy you ever met in the world. I looked at him and I go, "So what do you like to do?" And he looked at me and goes, "I work at Blockbuster and I love soup. Could we stop and get soup?" It's little things like that are just so funny. And now you look at the guy now and he's so entertaining and he's got his own. He's got his own federation. He's the GM of SmackDown.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to see that the evolution of some of the people I've got to spend time with.
And there's a lot of guys that went through, like Amazing Red and pretty much half the cruiserweight division. I think I've seen at JCW at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing if you really. It's not just JCW. I mean, I'm gonna throw this out there too. But Fat Frank and Pierre and Jeff and JAP and Homicide and Low Key and the Hit Squad were all homegrown product there, but they spent tons and tons of time working for me. In JAP, the Hit Squad were heels, and they were wrestling the Haas brothers, and the Haas's were the baby faces. And then I brought them to JCW, and they were the biggest baby faces in the history of the company. I tell people, watch the early JCW stuff. It'll blow your mind. The Hit Squad would come out to Pops in front of 300-400 people, and it sounded like 5,000. But we all worked together, and New Jersey was great. There was no scumbags at that time. Later on in life, there was a lot of promoters in the last couple of years that are just shady with the posters ripping down and, calling buildings. Frank and I never did that to each other. There was a mutual respect, and I love the guy. He's gone way too soon. He was just a class guy, and we pushed each other. If they drew 1,000, I had to try to draw 1,200. If I drew 500, he had to draw 7. But it was in a competitive, good way.
Right. No, I mean, I've seen, I've been to a couple of I went to the tribute show, and I see how they run their shows, and they do a very good job. And then I've been to obviously tons of your shows, and I try to get myself to as many shows as possible just so I can see the different ways that people do things. And I hear the rumors and the stories, and who's a jerk and who doesn't pay, and who's terrible in the locker room, and who rather put the belt on himself than talent. So I've heard it all. I mean,
right.
It's not it's not secret. It's public knowledge. You can ask anybody that walks out of the curtain, and they'll probably give you an earful in 5 minutes. But your shows were different, though, because your shows were. It was a little bit of. It wasn't PG-13, but it wasn't rated R. It was kind of that in between. You guys were on the fence. Sometimes you leaned over. Sometimes you didn't. So it was like kind of like a tearjerker for all the fans, because. Sometimes you'd go a little extreme, and sometimes you'd keep it normal. Like, you didn't know what you were going to get from show to show, but you were always entertained.
Well, what we tried to do, and a lot of this goes on, and I got to say thank you to early JCW was Dave Greco, middle JCW was pretty much myself, and then towards the end was Danny. What we tried to do was just not have you expect something to happen.
Right.
Like if we had blood in JCW, it meant something. If we had some kind of a major beatdown or some kind of an angle we ran, we did it at a shock, not just every show. And that's what I loved about us, is that you never knew who was going to show up on our shows, because we had so many connections to WCW, the NWA, TNA, WWE. We always, one funny thing that I can tell is that we had the WWE light heavyweight title defended on a JCW show in front of 1,600 people in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. Gilbert had his only successful WWE light heavyweight title defense on a JCW show. Now, you think that's, like, nowadays, you'd never see that title defended anywhere.
No.
Except, but we had that happen for us. And that was a show where we had WCW, ECW, and WWF talent all on the same show that night. And that's what's amazing. And that used to be fun. But now the WWE is just taking over. And to be honest with you, you asked me, like, why I knew it was time. When I saw my J Cup become the Cruiserweight Classic, and I knew they were forming a Cruiserweight division, and they've already sucked all of the good, talented indies guys are going down there, there's really not much left on that tree.
Right. Right now, I mean, yeah. I mean, I sat there and I, with my co-host JT, and we were watching it on the network, and I said, dude, this is the J Cup. I'm like, they did nothing but just, instead of a trophy, they slap a belt on the guy, and that's it. I said, they just took the J Cup and turned it into an entire division.
Right.
And so I don't, be honest with you, I'm not a cruiserweight fan. I appreciate everything they do. They're phenomenal athletes to put on incredible matches.
Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. Drew Gulak, Rick Swann, and Dorado are the three best and most exciting guys in the entire country to watch right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody in the business right now better than Swann, in my opinion. I mean, I don't watch wrestling. I'm going to be honest with you, Kevin. I watch less wrestling than anybody you know in the world. I know he's on. I will put it on, or I will DVR and fast forward to his match, because I think he's that good.
Yeah, no, he's fun to watch. Like I said, they're very entertaining. I just, that's not my. I'm not. I like the big, super heavyweights. I like the power guys. That's just, I grew up in the golden era. That was majority of what we watched.
I agree.
Was the big power guys. It wasn't until kind of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era that these guys started getting smaller and quicker, and and the little guys were winning world titles.
Well, everything has to evolve, and you'll see, someday. Wrestling goes in cycles, in my opinion. It's a 5 to 7 year cycle, and big guys, little guys, cruiserweights, the Eddie Guerrero, Benoit era,
right.
And then it went back to, the John Cena era and The Rock, and, Stone Cold Steve Austin and those guys. But the business always evolves and it always changes. And right now, that's the way it's focusing is on the faster, more acrobatic type guys. And some people love it, some people don't.
Now, let me ask you a question regarding the Cruiserweight division. If they would have debuted this Cruiserweight division a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, is Daniel Bryan still wrestling?
It's a freak injury with Daniel. I mean, the guy is the most talented person that's ever gone on to that company and won the belt. I mean, let's call CM Punk was an amazing story, but CM Punk, I don't think could shine Daniel Bryan's boots in the ring. I think Daniel Bryan might be the best overall package and success story the WWE ever had. I wish to God he was healthy. I'm so happy they took care of him and he has a role and he's still in the business, because if you know Daniel Bryan, he loves this business more than anything in the world. And It's a shame he was injured. And if he was still around, could you imagine what would have went down in that tournament?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys I think probably would have been, I think CM Punk would have been probably in the Cruiserweights, and Daniel Bryan, and maybe a lot of these guys that kind of had their careers cut short, like Drew McIntyre and guys like that. Maybe they're all still wrestling in the Cruiserweight division.
Well, don't kid yourself. Also, with the way that they've been bringing talent back, and anybody could show up on the TV nowadays, and that's what's fun right now. A little bit of like the old time when we were little kids, and you're about my age, and we watched it. You said the golden era. I'll go back further than that. The pre-Hogan and the just the beginning of Hogan. You never knew who was going to show up on TV.
Right. Well, it's because there was no internet.
Exactly. I have one.